In most cases, I would be against this, but for this video specifically, I'm going to ask you to get in touch with your darker side, because today, we're talking about anger. Jumping straight into this, I'm going to ask you guys, what is anger? What is anger to you? We're all going to have different definitions on this, but I looked up a definition that I feel like best overall describes it, and that definition is a strong feeling of being upset or annoyed because of something wrong or bad. The feeling that makes someone want to hurt other people, to shout, etc. Disclaimer, I'm not fully endorsing hurting anyone or anything like that, okay? But we do all want to acknowledge, like, what is that feeling of anger? What does it boil down to? What does it make you want to do, regardless of if you're actually going to do it or not? So to me, just like everything we've talked about before, we're going to have a range of how we show anger. Whether you want to think of anger, the emotion, as being on a range, I mean, I would hope that you guys don't go from 0 to 100, but generally you're going to have a couple things. You're going to have someone getting annoyed, maybe just a little irritated, and then, maybe they're really mad, but they're holding back, and then you have that full-on outburst of anger. This is where things tend to get violent, aggressive, you know what I'm talking about. So before I talk about specific visual representations of what anger is, you guys already might know it with the angry eyebrows and all that stuff. I think the best practice that we used last time was taking a look at the emojis and applying it to something that we already know. So I'm going to grab my friend Flower, and we're going to draw these emojis onto Flower. So the idea here is that we're going to take something that's instantly recognizable as angry, which is these angry emojis, and we're going to apply them to our character or just a basic face, whatever you have in front of you. And whatever you can take the time to exercise with. The reason we're doing this is because we want to understand that the emojis, again, they're instantly readable, and how can we apply that to our characters? Can you apply something or make your character instantly read as angry without too many complicated details? So after that practice, you guys probably noticed a common trait in some of these anger features, right? With the swoop down eyebrows, the mad, upside down smile kind of thing, right? So we can always take inspiration from some of our favorite cartoons as kids. Cartoons are so expressive, and even if you're going to be drawing realistic, just seeing how they exaggerate these forms can always be a helpful thing in the end. So before we get into the drawing section, let's talk a little bit about the visual stuff that we notice that maybe you're not aware of. Kind of like sadness, when someone gets mad, we have a downward move of the forehead and the brow. So generally what's going to happen is the brow line is going to swoop down, and it's going to barely hover above the eyes. And depending on who it is, if they have big brows or not, that might fully cover that top half of the eye. Now, the next quality that's pretty obvious, right, is going to be those angry eyebrows. Now, you can see this on emojis. You can see this on any cartoon that exists. It even sometimes repeats in the way that the skin folds over the eyes. These are all signifiers of anger within the eyes first, which is where we generally look. Now, not every angry face is going to involve an open mouth, but before we get to that, I do want to mention that you're going to have kind of split this into two sections mentality here, where this part, the eye and the nose, this stuff is going to be coming together. It's kind of scrunching. The eyebrows are coming down, the nose is flaring up. Now, you're separating this bottom half of the jaw, which is where the jaw is able to open, and we're elongating this form. But Josh, what do you mean by elongating the form? Well, let me just explain it really easily. So, in regular proportions, the chin to about the eye, sometimes the eyebrow, depending on who you're looking at, is going to be the halfway point up to the top of the head. Remember that there is still some head underneath that hair. The cranium does still rise till the top, till it turns around the head. Now, if we were to look at this picture where we have an elongated, open, raging mouth, and we put some proportion lines on there, and we drag those lines up, we can see that these are going above the head, right? So this is telling us one big thing, which is that we have quite the open mouth here that is extending the cheek, and you can see that elongation of the form there. So we're actually adding length onto the head that we're drawing, and this is really important if you're going to be drawing anything open mouth. But in this particular video, we're talking about anger, so we're going to start draw some long-headed angry people. So let's get to it. All right, so really quick, don't let the speed of this video fool you in the beginning. I picked a couple pictures that I really liked, and I ended up going way too far into detail. So these videos were actually quite long, and I just had to shorten them by speeding them up quite a bit. But you'll have plenty of time to draw the angry emotion if you just don't go into as much detail as I did, which is not recommended. So again, not a video on head proportions, facial structure, and all that stuff. Really, we're just focusing on showing that emotion and thinking back to what we just talked about. So a couple things as I'm building up the head here. Let's analyze this picture. We don't have an aggressively angry person. A lot of what's happening on this guy's face is just kind of like wear and tear almost, right? Like he is just fatigued, he's over it, he's upset, but it's like he's been through so much that he's just so good at holding it back. So how can we show that, right? That's a lot. I'm reading a lot off of this picture, so how can I show that in my art? These are the things that we're practicing, right? So we want to be able to take those emotions we're seeing and then see if we can bring them into our art. Now, a couple things here. He doesn't really have the angry flared eyebrows, right? I mean, does he even have eyebrows? That's a good question. I think I kind of see them, and I do add some on there just because I felt weird not having eyebrows. But anyways, regarding that, he just kind of has like a nice flat hanging over his eye expression. Now the first one I draw is always realistic, and then we're going to go into a more exaggerated form. Realistically though, if I was drawing this, I would actually probably push this a little more to be a little more of a straight line. But again, you know, we're always pushing proportions here to kind of tell our point. Now, I did push this one a little bit. He had a really long, just like flat mouth. Like it's, you know, he has little lips, and it really just kind of like sold the point that like this dude just has like a flat, uninterested, over it expression on his face. Like the next word out of his mouth is going to be something like a curse word or something coming out. So again, just trying to express those things in the picture. It's hard when you kind of like, we're trying to think about the subdued expression right now, right? So how can you show that subduedness with some anger? I will say I made a little bit of a mistake here. I definitely should have made that forehead bigger, maybe like a little bit bigger, half an inch or so. But again, I was kind of realizing how much time I just spent on this, and this isn't about drawing heads. It's just about getting the motion in and getting on to the next one. So we're going to move that up to the top, and we're going to draw a more exaggerated one. Now here, kind of taking a little hint from Samurai Jack, or, you know, Professor Utonium, right, from the Powerpuff Girls, where, you know, I just wanted to start with that square jaw, like that simplistic, super easy square jaw, and then I just kind of built on that structure alone. You can even see I was messing with the idea of maybe like making the top of the head round, but I was like, no, this guy has to be all square. His features are just so flat, square, angular. I don't know, there's just no better way to describe that, right? So again, this is my exaggeration, so I'm going to kick a couple things up. For one, really want that mouth nice and long. You can see that because I did that on my realistic one. Definitely could have cut that mouth down a little bit, but it's hard because I just want to play up that feature. Now next, I like to really kind of lengthen that nose to mouth region when I exaggerate, especially on like male figures. It gives me a lot of room to play with, like give them like a, you know, a mug on them, right? So that's one thing I like to do. Now, I wanted to have a long face. I think that long face kind of feature can really play with that grumpiness. So you can see I was starting with a long nose, but then I realized I wanted it to be kind of compressed. Remember, when the forehead or that brow comes down, then, you know, we're thinking of features getting tighter. Everything's getting a little closer together. So let's start showing that, right? So I'm going to push that even further. Guy's got like a nice, you know, longish bridge of the nose there, but I want to show that as even smaller because, again, I want to play up what I'm trying to show. And what I'm trying to show is a lot in the eyes, right? All right, so I'm really playing up the idea of this guy's like deep, low brows, just covering over his eyes here. And then I'm going to play up his nice, like just over it, tired eye bags. Again, everything is just kind of further enforcing that over it, irritated, whatever you want to call it, look. Now, we didn't talk about this one in the beginning, but if you check out some of my other videos, body language and other factors that are going on are going to contribute to your character's emotions. So, for instance, having disheveled hair, like you just didn't care, or just hair in your face and you're too angry, upset, whatever it is, to move it out of your face, this all plays up in our head, like subconsciously. We don't even think about it, that this guy is annoyed. So again, these are factors you want to think about, like how can you play these up in your head? And sometimes it's things you don't even think about. Again, like the hair in the front of the face. All right, so speaking of hair in front of the face, we're going to go back to our reference that we used when we were kind of breaking down what does an angry expression look like. So you guys kind of got a first view at this one, so hopefully it helps you out a little bit here. So I'm laying down some of my proportions. I'll explain this in another video. I just, if I explain it vocally, I know it's not going to make any sense. I would have to kind of show you guys as I draw it. But anyways, laying down some of my proportions, what I want to remember is her head is a little bit tilted. Okay, I can exaggerate this, why not? But I'm tilting it down. So this is important though. So remember I said that the bottom of the form gets elongated. So that line at the bottom there is supposed to be where the chin would be if the mouth wasn't open. So what I started doing was using my fingers to kind of get the measurements. You know, like where is the halfway point with the mouth open like that? And then how do I extend the chin? So I was kind of figuring out these proportions. I was drawing over my reference. All things that you guys should make a part of your practice if you intend on following the expression, the emotion, and getting a more accurate depiction of the reference that you're following. But again, I really wanted to kind of stick closely to this one because I like what she was showing. She's possibly yelling, she's aggravated, whatever it is, I wanted to capture that moment. Now going back to the idea of the hair in the face, it's a really good one. Something like hair covering your eye, eyes in deep shadow. That's also a good one. You can see that with her left eye, which is on our right side. And other factors like that. Only kind of thing that we're struggling with here is the fact that hair is kind of covering the nose in a pretty significant way, so we gotta have to make up some of those details, but that's fine because we're gonna come in and throw hair in there. So really just throw down a depiction of something and then you can cover it up. Now, remember, when things are coming down, it brings them below their proportion lines. So you can see that I'm kind of hovering my eyebrows below the line that I created for my eyebrows. Something that you just want to practice when you're doing emotions is remember that like you can't just draw generic proportions and follow them. Things are changing. The face is moving in all different ways. Go look in the mirror and like put an angry face on, put a sad face on, and just watch how your eyebrows like move all around. It's kind of crazy when you like really hyper focus on it. But all right, I felt like we got a pretty successful one here. I got a little carried away with adding in some of the final details on this one. But again, I found some really fun pictures and I'm sorry, you can't stop me from the details. I'm gonna throw them in. I'm gonna make it happen. So I'm just gonna knock in some hair, kind of really finish up this picture. You know, again, what are we seeing in the whole frame? The hair is pretty disheveled. It's pretty crazy. It's all over the place. She's not caring about her hair right now because she's angry. These are things that we're reading. We might not have known that we've been reading this stuff all along. All right, so this is our realistic one. We got an exaggerated version coming up, so let's finish up some details here, and we'll move on to the next one. All right, so you know what you got to do here, right? If I'm talking about an elongated face when we're not exaggerated, we're going to have to get pretty long when we're exaggerating. So I just straight up went for the chin. Now I gave myself a midline, or in this case, it's kind of like working like an action line, and I'm just going to play with the shape of everything. You know, if you guys have ever done caricature or anything like that, it's all about finding a shape and then building off that shape and just kind of fitting things into there and how you want to fit them, etc., etc. It's not a video necessarily on caricature, but exaggeration is blends pretty well with that. So what is the key feature here, right? When you're exaggerating something, whether you're drawing this on her or a different character, but you're drawing these features on a different character, what is the key feature that's happening? And it's the fact that she's yelling, her mouth is open, she's, flaring her teeth. So we want to really, in my opinion, kick that up. Like, that's going to be the biggest thing going on here. So I'm making plenty of space, let that mouth just fill up that whole bottom space down there. And I'm really going to work on making it feel like the mouth and the skin is just kind of like stretching around it, right? Like I said, I'm spending way too much time on detail, so don't worry about the speed. So anyways, we're going into the rest of the face now, finally. This was basically the same proportions that I did with the male figure before this, where I'm just going to kind of shorten this a little bit, right? Not that she necessarily had a really long space between her nose and her brow. You can see that, with the wrinkles on the nose is flaring, her brow is down. We know the drill, right? But I'm just going to shorten that a little bit just to kind of increase the intensity of it. And of course, we're exaggerating, and one of the most key storytelling elements that we have on our body, especially when we're drawing, is the eyes. People are naturally attracted to eyes. It's where you look and you read someone, some people call it the window of the soul, whatever you want to call it. That's generally what you want to kind of play up. So my idea here was I was going to change the pose a little bit to have her so frustrated, she's screaming so hard that she's closing her eyes, and she's closing them hard, right? Not just like a little, like, you're about to go to sleep kind of close, but like the close that you can feel your skin start to fold on top of each other, kind of pressure of that closed eye. So to me, this added to it, but again, you really couldn't go wrong if you added in the open eye. Generally what I say, if you want to start exaggerating, start showing less and less of the pupil, but really make sure you show how dilated the pupil is, right? Not the iris around it, and play up factors like that. From here, it was all just kind of gravy. I was just playing with the hair again. It's a really fun pose, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Got one more coming up. This one we're just going to go pure exaggeration, so get ready for some fun. If you guys haven't seen my sadness video where I kind of explain things about like how intense a young child or baby has to be feeling something for their face to wrinkle, go check that out. But same principle here. We gotta understand how young this kid is. They don't have wrinkles on their skin, and look how many wrinkles are folding up in this guy's nose. Like, he is pissed. Someone just stole his fruit roll up and he is about to take him down. So again, with this, I'm just sticking to pure exaggeration, not caring too tightly about proportions. I just want to play up the features I want to play up. Now, something I really liked is we could see connecting shapes here. From that eyebrow I just drew, it goes straight into that nose. The nose is almost a perfect triangle shape, right? It just has a rounded bottom, and then you can play up those nostrils as much as you want. The more you flare them, the angrier he will look. Otherwise, though, literally a non-existing bridge of the nose. I mean, literally. Otherwise, main thing I'm going to play up, because I mean, I almost can't play up more of that shortness between the brow and the nose because it's pretty short, is going to be that eye, that mouth, right? That's what I'm drawing right now. So those teeth are gritted. I love the fact that you can like Oh my god, you can see like the gums, you can see the stress of him opening his mouth like that. It's perfect. This is literally like over the top exaggeration, and this is what you want to be able to implement in your comics, stories, cartoons, whatever you are going to work on. Like if you have a moment where your character shows expression this well, you got it. You got it down. So again, we're just playing this up to the fullest extent here. I made it bigger. I really wanted to show like that mouth, like, I mean, you're seeing like the inside, like the underside of his lip. You know what I mean? Like his mouth is just like snarled open. And this is the one case where I would say it's okay to kind of get a little more detailed on the teeth. Reason being is because, again, you know, if you look at people who have tattoos of their kid's face or whatever, and their kids are smiling, and the tattoo artist mistakenly drew all the teeth, a little scary, right? Yeah, maybe don't Google it. It's a little scary. But anyways, in a case like this, he's angry. We want him to be scary. You kind of want him to be unattractive too, in a way, right? Like, we're supposed to feel one thing here. So showing teeth in this case, it felt right. You know, you don't have to. You don't like it, but it felt good. So again, we're talking about kids. They have bigger proportions than regular anyways, and of course I'm exaggerating. So here I'm going really big with the eyes, but what I'm doing is I'm kind of curling the bottom. You see that? So I'm having like the the bottom eyelid. Okay. Can I get my words here together, Josh? Come on, focus. We're almost done. Okay, bottom of the eyelid. It's curling up. You know, it's like kind of like a little mound shape, because it's gonna show the eye going like up. It's like quivering, right? He's like twitching a little bit. So that's something that you really want to focus on. It's gonna really kind of make that squinted anger look even more intensified. And it's gonna give your eye kind of like a downward eyebrow kind of feeling to it, right? Like it's I don't know, squinted down. Otherwise, from here, you know, it's all just detail. Like, really, I think we kind of successfully drawn this one. I'm getting like some Gollum vibes from Lord of the Rings going on here. We're gonna throw some hair on him so it's not that scary, right? But overall, pretty successful attempts. I hope you guys enjoyed these challenges, right? These are definitely ways to push it for sure. So let's finish up some of the final details here, and we'll close it out. You guys are gonna have to please excuse Flower. He's still calming down. He's very much a method actor, you know what I'm saying? But as always, guys, I hope this was helpful for you. If you guys have any other tips about how you like to draw anger or any other emotions, let me know. Shoot them down in the comments below. And on that topic, if you guys have any ideas for future videos, let me know as well, and I'll get to those when I can. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.